Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. We are in Chapter 5 as we're still speeding along again through the game, looking for negative delusions. And there's not much more to go, I hope, into getting into Yua's route. That is where we are headed as we are still looking for negative delusions. So if delusions is not what you're looking forward to, then you might want to skip ahead a little, but that is what we have in store as we continue along. I don't know how many more we have to do, but it's very clear here that I didn't do a lot of negative delusions in comparison to the positive and neutral directions. I don't know why. And of course, we're going to get a lot of these because, as I stated in the last episode, this is a very strange delusion, or a delusion choice there, in which the choice that you make changes the appearance of ISA, but that is the last one, so we shouldn't have that problem going forward. Let us see what negative will give us here. It'll give us something new. Leaving Rimi to stare at the PC screen with her eyebrows furrowed, I picked up the toy D-sword sitting in the corner of my room. I went to stand in the center of my room and brought my sword to eye level like I was an ESO character. At that point, I started to feel kind of ridiculous. There was no way a skinny Japanese guy like me would look cool holding such a huge sword. It was easy to find pictures of cosplayers doing the same thing online, but the vast majority of them felt painful to look at. Someone would probably feel the same way about me if they saw me like this. This might have been asking for the impossible. Despite my pessimism, I gave it a try nonetheless. I guess I just need to picture an image of a sword in my head. When the word sword comes to mind, I couldn't help but think of ESO. Maybe I should picture something akin to the beautiful sinister swords that Senna and Isa had, each complete with a sharpness that could sever anything it touched. Oh yeah, we can kind of see it there. I couldn't quite form a clear shape. Maybe it was because I still couldn't gather my thoughts. I needed to focus on either an actual sword from ESO or a sword like Senna's and Isa's. If I had to choose between them, I should really go for the latter. Alright, let's see where this leads me. While reproducing one as a delusion inside my head, I planted my feet, gritted my teeth, and tried grasping the sword with the power I now held in my hands. I prayed as hard as I could inside my head. Become real. Oh. Suddenly, something warm and soft covered one of my hands holding the sword. Startled, I opened my eyes. Rimi had reached out her hand from beside me and grabbed my wrist. Her head hung low, her eyebrows were furrowed in distress, and her lips trembled slightly. What the? Something was wrong. It felt like she was an entirely different person from the one that had been getting all confused about patents earlier. And what was she telling me to stop? An unpleasant memory flashed through my mind. Rimi was on my side, she was supposed to be. However, I still hadn't solved the mysteries surrounding her. Did Rimi know something about D-swords? With a gulp, I nervously called out to her. With her eyes cast downward, Rimi opened her mouth. Her voice was stifled, devoid of any and all emotion. Rimi was my ally, wasn't she? She wouldn't betray me like Yua did, would she? If even Rimi betrayed me, I'd... My voice nearly cracked. Did Rimi know something after all? Rimi's gaze finally moved, but this time it landed squarely on my eyes. I hurriedly averted my own. What was she going to say? I mean, we all know what she's trying to do here. Rimi suddenly broke into a grin, a very mischievous grin. The abrupt change in demeanor left me speechless. Okay, I can kind of remember this. I can kind of remember this scene and everything, but I don't remember what she says in the other directions. I think the neutral, I kind of just skipped through it. because that was the one that we saw last time. But positive, I don't really remember what happened there.
さすがにそんな大きなおもちゃ一人で部屋で振り回してるのはどうかと思うよ。それが許されるのは小学生までじゃない？でも、タクの個人的な趣味を私の前で披露してくれたってのはちょっと嬉しいかも。私にだけ秘密を教えてくれたみたいで。
What the hell, man? I'd gotten all scared for no reason. I mean, we now know, or at least I now know, what she actually did there. Like 100%. I'm gonna go negative here. I think this is where we imagine her stripping. I was at a loss about what to do, so I opted to subtly examine Rimi's expression. Oh yeah, she's wearing just casual clothes all of a sudden. What? Rimi had changed clothes in the blink of an eye. She should have been wearing her uniform, but there was no way she could have sneakily changed clothes in the short time I had my eyes closed for, right? I couldn't keep up with such a sudden change.
どうかした？
Rimi tilted her head. She didn't say a word about her sudden change of clothes. What was going on? Had Rimi not noticed, or was she just playing dumb? Trying not to ogle her, I looked over her new change of clothes. I think this is pretty much the same as what we've seen before. It's not too much of a well, I guess it is a delusion. I think we can skip this.
ないなら買っ
Yeah,
てこようかな。
she's gonna go get a drink or something. She's gonna go to the store.
ただいま。
Okay, maybe this is different. Then Rimi, who had just left, returned, and not only that, but she was wearing her uniform. Now you mean to tell me she quickly changed while she was outside? Why would she do that?
私、財布持ってくの忘れてた。
Okay, maybe this is slightly different. Because how it was in the positive delusion, if I remember correctly, she was in her underwear and then just dipped out, and then the delusion ended and she was, back to what she was supposed to be wearing, like right here. And then she's like, all right, well, I'm thirsty. I'm going to go get something to drink. So it's kind of like we saw the future a little bit. Rimi didn't seem to notice my bewilderment, and with a strained laugh, she took her wallet from her bag.
べし。それじゃあ、改めて買ってくるね。
That's why I skipped forward a little bit there. I thought it was like pretty much exactly the same thing, just with like a different set of clothes. That's all it was. Or that's all I thought it was. Interesting. Someone please explain that bizarre phenomenon just now. Nope. You don't get to know, I don't get to know. It's just how it be. But yeah, that delusion before, that was a pretty interesting bit of foreshadowing. I don't know how it is in the other delusion choices. What's going on here? Oh, okay. Okay, now it's just referencing that delusion. God damn it. Too many freaking callbacks. But yeah, I'm pretty sure back then, like, he thought of Rimi not wearing these clothes, but instead just wearing, nothing. But yeah, that was a nice bit of foreshadowing and everything. That was interesting. We got to see a little bit of our sword. All right. Oh, hello. We are now in chapter 6, and somebody is knocking at the door. Right then, as if answering my prayers, I heard a faint knocking sound coming from the door.
Rimi!
It was Rimi. Rimi had actually come. My salvation having finally arrived, I headed for the door. Only to stop dead in my tracks.
Huh?
Why was she knocking so hard?
Rimi!
I called out to the other side of the door. The sound ceased. Silence. There was no answer. Please say something. Why aren't you saying anything?
Rimi! なんでしょう。答えてよ。
Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Oh, more knocking. Even the knocking is even like it's a whole different pattern. It's more frequent. Without a reply, the knocking resumed. Was it not Rimi?
誰だ誰なんだ
They've got to be using both hands here to knock now. Could it be Shogun? Now that I was suspicious, all the courage I had mustered to go and open the door had vanished. I slowly drew backward, going back far enough that I ended up tripping over my chair. And as I did, the pounding on the door remained incessant. Someone was knocking on it, and they weren't stopping. No, it wasn't just the door. The banging sound was coming from the walls and the ceiling too. Whoever was outside wasn't alone. Unable to bear the terror any longer, I screamed out. Then, as if in response to me, the sound suddenly stopped. I wanted out. I wanted to run. I wanted to run away as far as possible. But how? There was no doubt a group of people outside surrounding the entire container. What was that? The sound began echoing again. But this time it wasn't the sound of knocking. This time it was the horrifying sound of nails on a chalkboard. It made my skin crawl. And not being able to see the other party made it all the more terrifying. I knew it was Shogun who had sent them, but I had no idea what they looked like. I had no idea what the person harassing me from beyond these lone tiny walls looked like. My entire body was covered in goosebumps, and the sheer discomfort I was feeling made me even more nauseous than I already was. I covered my ears tightly.
やめて。やめてよ。許してよ。
I guess it all was just a delusion. When I returned to my senses, I was still in front of the monitor. Shocked, I turned toward the rest of the room. I stayed still and listened carefully. I couldn't hear anything anymore. Had it just been a delusion? For more than 5 minutes, I stayed hyper alert to everything that was happening outside the container, so frightened that I couldn't even move. In the end, there weren't any signs of anything suspicious, so I opened the door slightly and peeked outside. There was no one there. Had it really just been a delusion? Even if it had been, I was still just as anxious and my heart was beating fast. I looked back at the monitor. And now we get a gift, right? That's what's coming up, right? Well, after this nonsense, we will obtain a gift, a phone. A gift of a phone. Actually, first we have to go through this awful-ass delusion here. I think we've obtained everything here. The negative one is the really fucked one, but nonetheless, yeah, we've gotten everything here. Jesus. But actually, oh wait, whoa, what's going on here? Oh nope, that was just a single line that wasn't read. Okay. What was I gonna say? There was a neutral that I chose kind of on accident. It was when our eyes were gonna be covered or some shit like that by Rimi when we were talking with or when we approached Kozuki as we were leaving. The negative there, we had already gotten that one, but it was the wheelchair of Shogun. You can kind of hear it, and I think he also speaks. But the neutral had nothing, as far as I could tell. But I also skipped it, so you know, who's to know? Who's to know at that point? Did we ever get the negative here, though? I'm curious. Let's see. No, we didn't. This horrifying scene is about to get more horrifying. Nanami still wasn't answering. Please pick up. Pick up the phone already. Oh, she picked up.
ななみ
Uh-oh.
ななみでしょ返事しろよ今どこにいるんだ大丈夫なの何か言ってよななみ
I called out desperately to the other end of the line, but the voice that answered back...
少しは落ち着いたら
That voice was Shogun.
なんて
I was horrified. I didn't want to accept it. I'd called Nanami's phone, but Shogun had answered. Completely dumbfounded, it took all I had just to say the same thing I had before.
なんで
メールの意味がわからなかったのかな
信じないこんなの信じない
What a great way of making this even more freaky. Well, yeah, that's because it wasn't happening. It had just been a delusion featuring the worst scenario I could think of. Oh, it's about to get suddenly worse, buddy. But reality wasn't too far off. Nanami still hadn't picked up, and the sound of someone's ringtone continued to echo throughout the room. The melody was a happy-go-lucky one, something that was in harsh contrast to my current state of mind. The sense of dread within me was growing. There was no getting around it. Nanami's phone was in this room. I couldn't think of any other explanation. I couldn't avert my eyes from reality anymore. Yeah, we have to open our gift. It's always a fucking gift, a box of some sort with a terrible item inside in these goddamn games. I just don't know why. Okay, I know there's a delusion coming up here, but then we have our lovely questions that we have to answer. I don't think we've done the negative here. So, let's give it a shot. Shogun. It was most likely him who had brought them here. They were all under his mind control. The scene of ISA falling earlier today resurfaced in my mind. In the midst of a countrywide broadcast in front of this staggeringly large crowd, in front of countless people waiting for me to speak, I would be forced to jump. And once I did, it would be a prime example of how dead men told no tales. The Esper boy who planned to use his gift of clairvoyance to reveal the NewGen perpetrator was actually the culprit the entire time. A shocking conclusion, an unbelievable plot twist. The population would then complete their false narrative, one in which I leapt to my death as a way of repenting for my crimes. The curtains would close on NewGen after a most shocking display. My body would smash against the concrete, my limbs would warp in unnatural directions, blood and gray matter would splatter from my crushed head. And the entire country would witness my mangled corpse. The audience wouldn't be satisfied if I didn't go to such extremes. That was what entertainment was all about. It's true. It is true. Yeah, all I had to do was die. That way, they would all be happy. And not just them. I'd be happy too. Because if I was dead, I wouldn't have to go through something so painful, so frightening ever again. Let's go delusion time. Delusion where we jump. Oh, hey, nice. Time to die. The world would be better off with me, or without me. KYS, Takumi, not haha, go KYS, actually kill yourself. Huh, had the answer always been that easy? I had never felt more at ease. All my worries melted away. And so, carrying that feeling with me, I threw myself into the open air. The nightscape of Shibuya Station spun around and around. I fell to the earth. I felt the wind rushing over me. It felt nice. Hey everyone, look, I'm a bird. What a lovely final thought. It's just, hey, look, I'm a bird.
ああ、死んじゃった。バカじゃないのこいつ。
キモい。
Well, I guess they got entertained. So it all works out, right? Oh, right back to it. All right, so I did pull up the guide because I got to make sure I actually answered these correctly. It's yes, yes, no, no, yes. Oh, hey, wait, I don't actually remember there being another delusion here. All right, well, we got to do the negative. It's how this works. But Nanami.
じゃあはっきり言ってあげる。ナナミッチが死んだっていいじゃん。
Huh?
タッキーは自分の命よりナナミッチの命の方が大事なの？
Well, Nanami's my precious little sister, so...
でも突き詰めれば他人っしょ？死んだら悲しいけどそれだけ。タッキーに何か害が及ぶ？
No.
自分の命と他人の命とどっちが大事？死んだらさ、世界が終わるんだよ。タッキーにとっての世界が終わるの。わかる？死んだらあとは何も残らない。死後の世界なんてない。天国もない。生まれ変わることもない。 ただタッキーっていう一人の動物の生命活動が終わってタッキーはもう世界を観測できなくなるんさ。それって世界が終わるってことっしょ。つまりさ、タッキーが死んだらタッキーが観測してたナナミッチもどうせ消えるってことなんだよ。ナナミッチだけじゃない、リミッチもアヤセッチも、それに私もみんな消える。
This is actually really deep. What the fuck?
でもナナミッチが死んだだけならタッキーは消えないで済むし、タッキーの世界も消えないで済むんさ。ブラチューの最終回もちゃんと見られるし、来年発売予定のブラチューのゲームも私の新作フィギュアもちゃんと買える世界が残るんさ。ねえタッキー、死にたい？死にたくない？
That was pretty interesting. Does that even count as a negative delusion? What the fuck? That was very I don't know how to properly describe it. But it made a lot of sense in a way, maybe? Like it's perception. If you can't perceive the world, there is no more world for you. And therefore, from your perspective, there is no more world at all. Just straight up. What kind of delusion will we get here? Well, who knows, because, well, we've already done it. I think we had to do that one because it was suggested when doing the alternate common route ending. But when do we begin to diverge? That's what I wonder here. Something is bound to come up anytime this chapter. But when? I mean, Nanami's that made some pretty good sense when her story diverged. But we haven't been this far in a while. What will negative give us here? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, that's right. It's when we started beating the shit out of the Dokuns. That was good fun. That was a fun time. Again, it has been a little bit since we've been at this stage of the story. So when will it diverge? Oh, this is when we get the shit beat out of us. Oh, and this is when we meet Kozupi. So where does Yua make an appearance? Okay, so we'll do negative here as well. What will that give us? Which meant... Startled, I looked up at the sky. Is this voice an attack from Shogun? Is he reading my mind?
Shogun?
He's attacking me from a satellite. Panicked, I crouched down on the spot, clutching my head. He's gonna kill me. This time he's gonna kill me for sure. He has to be angry at me for not listening to him back at O-Front. And now he's doing this to punish me. What do I do? Where can I go that'll protect me from him? With those thoughts racing through my mind, I was thrown into a desperate frenzy. There's nowhere to run. An invisible attack from space aimed at me with pinpoint accuracy. Its weaponry could surely pierce through anything to get to me. No matter how strong the shelter, there's nowhere in Japan that I can run to, nowhere I can hide. It's over, it's all over for me. This is why people wear the tinfoil hats. What even is a Kozupi? Are you trying to throw me off guard with that moe voice of yours? Why? Why are you willing to go so far just to hunt me down? What are you going to do to me? Make my head explode? Dissolve my brain into a pile of goo? Please, please, no, I don't want to die. I was cowering on the floor in fear, and then I felt someone poke me in the shoulder. I nervously looked up and saw that the transfer student was still there. When she poked me, she tried to mumble something, but hadn't ended up saying anything. So instead of speaking, she decided to timidly raise her hand. You get it now? Come on now. I very faintly remembered hearing that name from Misumi-kun a long time ago. Kozoe Kozupi. No. Does this mean that this voice I'm hearing is one that you're sending to my head? The transfer student nodded her head emphatically.
テレパシー。
仕組みはよくわかんないのら。でもできるの。
That's ridiculous. And we're right back to it. Yeah, when does Yua pop up in any of this? Because the only other person that will show their face here should be Senna, right? Unless Yua is following us? It did say in the guide that we'll diverge somewhere in Chapter 7. Maybe it's like the end of Chapter 7, maybe? I just don't ever remember seeing, like, Yua around. Not with us, at least. She was definitely with Bon. Why does Kozupi have a D sword? With an innocent smile still on her face, Kozupi looked back at me. And the gigantic snowboard-esque sword flashed as if cutting the air itself to ribbons.
Eh?
I had no idea what had just happened. Before I can even react, it was all over. Kozupi's small body embraced the D-sword. And clinging to that sword was a sticky substance. It was blood. And in that very moment, my body had been permanently disfigured. I nearly collapsed, so I tried to step forward with my right leg to stop myself. But my leg wouldn't move. The sensation in my lower body had disappeared. I felt a blistering heat around my waist.
あれ
I fell forward. I couldn't move my body. Confused as could be, using only my hands, I pushed myself slightly upward and looked toward my body. Blood was gushing out from my side. Slimy, protruding intestines glistened in the light. Pink flesh clung to exposed white bones. It was a body that had been bored out, one that couldn't be mine.
嘘でしょ
Unable to believe what I was seeing, I looked up at Kozupi. She is fucking strong. To be completely honest, like, she could probably get away with a lot of things here. Like, she's got that bloodlust. She does not hesitate. Staring at me with nothing but raw disdain in her eyes, Kozupi took the D-sword dripping with my blood, and then almost as if she wanted me to watch, she took her adorable tongue and slowly licked away the crimson. Again, bloodlust.
で
My delusion made me feel really sick. But that didn't mean that the delusion wouldn't become reality. Assuming the worst, I distanced myself a little from Kozupi, preparing myself to bolt at any time. Completely oblivious to what I was feeling, Kozupi waltzed around the store like she owned the place, her footsteps light and bouncy. She didn't even attempt to try and hide her sword from the people around her, acting as if it were the most normal thing in the world, excuse me. Ugh. It had been the same with Senna. She'd also been lugging around a gigantic sword in the middle of Shibuya with no regard to the people around her. Kozupi was way too calm. Even if Kozupi didn't say work for Shogun, well, she still was definitely crazy. You got that right, boy. That is most definitely true. She is a freaky child. A freaky child of sorts. She kind of reminds me of a Hunter character for some reason. The children in that show can kill. That is for darn sure. And I think the negative delusion that's coming up here is one that we've already done. I think it's in regards to the popsicle stick. It actually says you lose on the stick. I don't know if you guys can see that.
よかったらどうぞ
What will a negative give us? Yep, it's one that we've already done. Ugh. I remember that. What a freaky chapter this was. Oh, now we're in chapter 8. Okay. But this should be a new chapter 8. Right? Maybe? I hope. Alright, so initiated by Momose, a meeting was slated to be held at Frisia Credit Bureau, a meeting to which Bon was now running nearly half an hour late for.
っとワンちゃん遅いじゃないの。
Momose's angry voice hurtled into him, as he entered the office. In response to this, Bon gave a minor shrug and then proceeded to walk up to the desk at Frisia's president with an amiable smile on his face. He had not brought any refreshments today, something he was beginning to believe may have been a lapse in judgment.
あら、つばちゃんは？
今日は別行動。
若い子をこき使ってバンちゃんは楽してるわけね。
いやいや、俺もちゃんとやってるよ。昨日だって徹夜でいろいろ調べてたんだぜ。おかげで最近の女子高生の生態についてはかなり詳しくなった。
That is sus. Very sus.
あんたね、呆れて物も言えないわ。
で、こうして俺を呼びつけたってことは、あの子と連絡取れたってこと？
今来てるわ。
さすがももちゃん。ちなみに可愛い子かい
Momose promptly smacked Bon over the head, stopping his opportunistic grin in its tracks. The sheer speed with which she had turned her wrist made the slap especially fierce.
いつまでもバカなこと言ってんじゃないわよ、エロ親父。
冗談だって。
Yeah, be careful what you joke about. It'll get you thrown in prison. Or jail, at least. Or with a fine, who knows. Before arriving at the building, Bon had made a private request to Momose. It entailed setting up a meeting between him and a certain person connected to the NewGen cases. Rather than anything work-related, it was merely to satiate a personal curiosity. He was not planning on talking about anything related to the NewGen investigations for the time being. And due to his position, Bon could not simply meet with the person on his own, else he would risk drawing the ire of the detectives he was getting ahead of. Momose urged Bon over to the corner of the office. It was a fairly cramped space, almost all of which was already taken up by shelves packed full of files. The location was used as a reception area of sorts, and a pair of love seats had been wedged into the only place they could fit. Bon entered the section after Momose, and his eyes landed upon a lone girl sitting in one of the love seats. The girl was wearing a Sume Academy uniform. Her head and shoulders were curved toward the ground, and she looked incredibly haggard.
ごめんね。お待たせしちゃって。
The girl looked up in startlement upon hearing Momose, and in the process, her glasses had slipped down her nose a bit, leading her to swiftly readjust them with her finger.
あ、いえ、平気です。
When she saw Bon, her expression turned slightly fearful, before bowing her head and greeting a moment later. Bon felt somewhat hurt by this. He had made every attempt to look as non-threatening as possible in both bearing and appearance, but the girl's reaction made him realize that, well, despite his best efforts, the ferocity and intimidation particular to detectives was seeping out all the time. Looks like I've still got a lot more practicing to do, he thought with bitter amusement, as he sat across from Yua.
楠木優愛さんだね。
はい。
亡くなった美愛さんの双子の姉。それで間違いないかな。
Yua slightly adjusted her posture and then returned a nod. The first NewGen incident, the group dive, among the 5 high schoolers that had leapt to their deaths was a girl named Kusunoki Miya.
まあ、そんな緊張しなさんな。君を取り調べようなんて思っちゃねえんだ。雑談程度に思ってよ。本題に入る前にちょっと聞いていいかい？ゆあちゃんは妹さんが亡くなったことについてどう思う？
ちょっとバンちゃん。
あ、悪いね。職業病ってやつか。
You know, it's weird because I really do remember this conversation. I'm very curious if it's going to be like straying off into a different direction, maybe? Like, I've got the skip still on, but we're not skipping anything, so I don't know, maybe something new will pop up?
気を使うような言い方できなくってな。ただ、気になってたんだ。捜査本部でも話題になってたんだが、楠木美愛さんの遺族は奇妙だって。
ばあちゃん！
いえ、いいんです。
Before Momose could rise to her feet over Bon's insensitive comment, Yua stopped her.
私もおかしいって思いますから。
はあ、
集団ライブで飛び降りた5人には自殺する理由なんてなかった。家族や友人はみんなそう主張している。だがミヤさんの家族だけは違った。
Bon took his fan out from his belt and began cooling himself.
何も主張しなかった。あっさり受け入れたって聞いてる。あまりに何も言わなさすぎて奇妙だったってな。なんでだい？
Honestly, this is one of those unsolved things. Like, we really didn't get any more on this. Could it be because maybe her parents are involved with the church?
お父さんもお母さんもミヤちゃんが死んでからおかしくなっちゃったんです。
Anguish seeped from Yua's voice.
最初はミヤちゃんの事件の知らせを受けた日はそれでも泣いていたんです。お父さんもお母さんもとても辛そうでした。でも次の日の朝、なぜか二人は楽しそうに笑っていたんです。ミヤちゃんが死ぬ前と全く同じに戻ってたんです。たった一日で。私、わけがわからなくて、二人はミヤちゃんのこと忘れようとしてるんじゃないかって思って。そうしたらお父さんが笑いながら、お前に妹なんていないよって。ミヤちゃんが残した洋服とか靴とかを見せても全然取り合ってくれないんです。それはお前のために予備で買ってあったものだって。そうやってお父さんたちはニュースからも警察の話からも目を背けて、記憶からミヤちゃんのことを消し去ろうとしてるんです。
つまり双子じゃなかったことに。
それで警察にもうちは一人っ子だって言って追い返してたわけか。
私とミヤちゃんは一卵性で、見た目は瓜二つなんですけど、あの子は、妹は親から嫌われていました。あの子はいつも自分の気持ちを押し殺して、私のことを一番に考えてくれていたんです。
As Yua spoke, memories from when Mia had still been alive resurfaced in her mind. Again, like we've even seen this flashback here. First came a memory from when the two had still been in elementary school. One day, some relatives had brought the girls a single large teddy bear as a present. In contrast to the raw joy Yua displayed, Mia insisted that she did not like stuffed animals and proceeded to not even so much as look the plush's way. Both her relatives and parents were upset with Mia for not acting as a child should. But despite Mia's protesting, Yua whispered to her that the two of them could share it, that it could be something they could both treasure. However, in response to her sister's kindness, Mia simply said that she did not want it and that Yua could have it. About a month later, when Yua had grown tired of the teddy bear, she woke up in the night and happened to witness a certain scene. With an incredibly joyful look on her face, Mia was hugging and talking to the bear plushie. That was the first time Yua had ever seen her sister so happy. And from this, she realized that her sister's insistence about disliking stuffed animals had been a lie. Mia had been keeping her own feelings hidden, all for the sake of her older sister. The next day, Yua found a lovely drawing of a bear beneath Mia's pillow. Until her sister grew tired of the teddy bear, Mia had been hugging and sleeping with the drawing in lieu of it. Things very similar to this happened again and again over all the 18 years that they had spent together. For their birthday celebrations, Yua had always blown the candles out on the cake, but when Mia was prompted to do it, she would say, "I refuse to do something so ridiculous," angering her parents. Yua advanced to the private high school Suame Academy. Mia, meanwhile, had been misbehaving at school, deliberately scoring low on exams, and thereby moved on to a public high school. Due to the exorbitant fees, their parents would have only been able to afford sending one of them to a private school. No matter how hard Yua would try to just let her sister have something, Mia would always gain the upper hand and force Yua to be prioritized. To achieve this end, she even intentionally took a dislikable attitude.
私は結局ミヤちゃんの優しさに甘えて今まで自分だけいい思いをしてきました。ミヤちゃんがいなくなって初めてもっとあの子のために何かできることがあったはずだってすごく後悔して、私が代わりに死んであげればよかった。しかも挙句に親に存在そのものを忘れられてしまうなんて、こんなのあんまりです。あんまりにも悲しいです。
Yua, having now reached her limit, could no longer squeeze out any more words. She took off her glasses, pressed her fingers against the corners of her eyes, and broke down in tears. Momose sat down beside her and gently rubbed her back.
それでユアちゃんは一人で事件のことを調べていたらしいの。ミヤちゃんに一体何があったのか知るためにね。
そりゃ大変だったろう。
そして一人の人物を突き止めた。
あ？
As Momose held Yua's shoulders, she turned her eyes toward Ban.
西条匠くんよ。
なるほどね。
Stroking the stubble on his chin, Ban leaned forward from the sofa.
いつだったか西条と追跡劇をしてたっていう女子高生の話を所轄のデカから聞いたんだが、もしかしてユアちゃんだったりする？
Yua nodded apologetically.
ああ、興味あるな。詳しく聞かせてもおーと思ったけどちょっとごめんよ。
With a strained smile, Ban lightly bowed his head to Yua and Momose. His words had been interrupted by the cell phone in his suit pocket. He swiftly took out the phone and checked the screen. Sua's name was displayed across it.
もしもし、どうした？
先輩、7番目っす。
なんだと？
Sua's voice sounded strained. The sounds of investigators frantically scurrying about could be heard through the phone. Sua must have been at the investigation headquarters.
NewGen 第7の事件が起きたんすよ。
And it was done by Sua himself. Ban's eyes opened wide and his expression turned bitter as his teeth sank into his lip. Sensing the seriousness of the situation from his behavior, Momose and Yua watched the detective with unease.
外車は3人、友人同士らしいっす。3人とも胴体から体が切断されてて、それぞれの上半身と下半身を別々に入れ替えて手ぐす、釣りとっすね。それで縫い付けられてたっす。それと額にそれぞれ Q、D、N って読める傷が。
何かのメッセージか？
さあ、そこまでは。それと気になることが。司法解剖の結果分かったんすけど、外車の胴体の切断部はノコギリとか包丁とかそういう刃物で切断されたものじゃないって。
どういう意味だ？
なんか強い力で引きちぎられたそうっす。
引きちぎられた。
Yeah, this is the very weird one because a straight up fucking monster is what did it. Like, reading this again, it's weird because you try to think like, okay, well, we know what did it, but what was it? Ban repeated Sua's words back to him with a low groan, and then roughly scratched his head with the handle of his fan.
まるで怪獣だな。あるいは最近流行りの魔法使いとかな。
No, it's the former.
先輩、それマジで言ってんすか？映画オタクの自分でもさすがにその意見には同意しかねるっす。
単なる例えだ、バカ。映画ら、さっさと捜査に戻れ。
After barking that order to Sua, Ban ended the call. And that's the end of that. But what will come next? Because this doesn't look familiar. By the time Yua finished up with Ban and Momose and left Frisia, the sky had long since been covered by a thick veil of darkness. During the time that she had spent there, Yua had explained all the suspicions that she had gathered from her investigation, of Nishijo Takumi. Bon was a detective, and Momose was the head of a private investigation agency. If she could get the two of them on her side, then perhaps Nishijo Takumi would finally be arrested. And that was what Yua had been hoping for. Nishijo Takumi needed to be arrested. Yua had sympathy for the boy's painful circumstances, so she would have preferred it if he had turned himself into the authorities, but since he had refused to do so, she had no choice but to get the police involved. That had been her plan at any rate. But much to her surprise, Detective Bon had told her that Nishijo Takumi had been removed from the list of suspects. Yua found this news absolutely unbelievable. She did not want to accept it. Why had her theory been dismissed? It was blatantly obvious that Nishijo Takumi was behind NewGen. Biting down hard on her lip, Yua increased her pace as she hurried toward the station. She had to return home as quickly as possible, investigate the case from top to bottom, and find some conclusive evidence. And with that evidence, she would be able to prove her theory correct to Detective Bon.
あれ楠木さんところのお嬢さんじゃないっすか。
What the fuck is Suwa doing here? The sudden sound of her name startled Yua, stopping her dead in her tracks. The words of her homeroom teacher came to mind. Shibuya has become all too dangerous lately. Women really shouldn't be out alone at night right now. Remembering that warning, Yua froze completely. The voice she had just heard belonged to a rather friendly-looking young man.
確かユアちゃんっすよね。
Yeah, how does he know her? She felt like she had seen him somewhere before, but at the moment could not remember exactly where.
覚えてないっすか。自分、諏訪守って言います。ほら、こういうものっすよ。
Making sure that only Yua could see it, the man took out his police badge and showed it to her, and then quickly shoved it back inside his suit pocket.
集団ダイブの後、一度楠木さんのお宅に伺ったことはありますよ。その時にユアちゃんともいろいろお話ししたんすけどね。
すいません。思い出しました。その説はどうも。
Okay, I am worried, by the way, because we all now know what this man truly is. And he's alone with Yua. Yua bowed her head. The incident had really shaken her to her core, so much so that she genuinely could not recall Sua's face. However, their talk back then had indeed helped Yua sort out her thoughts regarding the bizarre nature of her sister's death. And for that, she was truly grateful to him.
さっきまでバン刑事と一緒だったんじゃないっすか。
You know what? Now that I think about it, it's probably him. He's probably the one that did something to her parents so that they would just not talk anymore. Maybe they knew something. I don't know what, but they could have known something.
バンさんとお知り合いなんですか？
そりゃ同じ警視庁捜査一課っすから。自分の先輩っすよ。いつも怒られてます。よっぽど若い女の子と話せるのが嬉しかったんすね。ここだけの話っすけど、今日ユアちゃんと会うって自分に教えてくれた時の先輩、鼻の下伸ばしちゃってどう見てもスケベ親父って感じだったっす。できれば自分も同席したかったんすけど、捜査から抜け出せなくて。そうそう、ユアちゃんのご両親には連絡行ってるんすかね。多分行ってると思うんすけど。どうかな。
連絡と言いますと？
いや、集団ダイブのね、犯人が使ったと思われる遺留品が見つかったんすよ。
本当ですか？
It was the first Yua had heard of this. With all hesitation now evaporated, she stepped closer to Suwa.
どんなものだと思うっすか？最近別の事件でマスコミが散々取り上げてるんで有名だと思うんすけど、なんとダーススパイダーのヘルメットっす。
それを集団ダイブの犯人もかぶっていたんですか？
そう、ネットに事件の様子を撮影したビデオが流出したっすよね。あれを解析した結果分かったんすよ。それにしてもダーススパイダーといえば例の渋谷エスパー騒動の少年が有名っすよね。西条匠くんでしたっけ？ なんで彼が集団ダイブの犯人と同じようにダーススパイダーのヘルメットを持ってたんですかね。
Yeah, keep her thinking that he is the one who did all of this. Just keep her thinking that. The moment she heard those words, dark impulses began to flood Yua's heart. She had been completely convinced. She had only begun feeling it a few moments ago. That was all she needed, was one piece of decisive evidence, one piece to prove herself to Ban and Momose. And now she had it.
さてと、それじゃあ自分フリージアに行くんで、この辺で失礼します。
And with that, Suwa waved goodbye and left. All by herself now, Yua stared down at the pavement, utterly paralyzed.
彼だわ。
I don't think that little, chuckle was necessary. It's obvious what he was trying to do. Her murmurs were to no one but herself.
彼なの。やっぱり彼だった。彼しかいない。
God damn it, she's doing the fucking thing again.
彼に間違いない。彼が妹を殺したのよ。彼がミアを殺したのよ。
I just don't get it, but whatever. Whatever. So, ooh, Nightheart. That's us. Yo. Hey, yo, is this new content? I think it is because the E key do nothing. But I think we should know about what they're talking about. I really don't remember. So I'm just not going to worry about it. We'll save it for the next episode. But all right, we are now in the Yua route. Yeehaw. It took some time. It definitely took some time. But I think going forward now, we don't have to worry about doing delusions for the most part. Unless, we have to go further into the story. Which is fine. That's okay. You know, I think we did, the bulk of them. And there were some pretty interesting ones here and there. But, you know, if you guys really want to see them all, I think that's when you got to get the game for yourself, you know? But no, I think we're done with delusions. I don't think there's really much to see out of all the neutral paths, but I will kind of grab all those and see if anything pops up that's pretty interesting when we do the next go around. But, well, we're just going to be doing routes from now on. And yeah, let's focus in on this one. I'm kind of curious to see what will come of this one. Because, not to say it was disappointing, it's just that we didn't really get much out of Nanami's route. We were kind of just trapped into an escapism type delusion, and we real booted another Nanami, which is quite something. But here, I mean, there's some developments that could pop up here for sure. Something that maybe we can learn about Yua. I don't know. Only one way to find out. Thank you all for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.